early when we were doing, when generative AI hit the street, and it was a big splash 2 years ago, and you know, it's January of 24, and everybody was talking about ChatGPT. It just became a thing, and every company was like, well, what do I do about it? And there wasn't even like a lot of information on the street about, you know, what to do about it. What should you have a policy? And everybody started saying, I needed a policy.
I feel like that opening line for every one of them is, this changes everything.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Veer. That's Jim. We're the Functional Executives. We're here to talk to you today a little bit about mid-market companies, the work that we do. We're talking about AI. We're talking about hype, and how maybe you don't need to buy into the hype side of it, but that this is something important. Maybe you want to pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're also going to talk, I think, a little bit about fear. And it's pretty pervasive out there, and not just, oh, I'm going to lose my job fear. Different kinds of fear that are motivating people around this whole AI trend. I think that'll be a good conversation that we'll have too. And, you know, just some of the mistakes that you might make along the way. And you know, I tell my kids all the time, it's okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn. You just don't want to make huge, massive mistakes. So hopefully we can help give you some ideas on how to avoid the big ones, but make the little ones, because that's how you learn.
All right. So if you don't know us, I'm Veer. I've spent my career doing technology and CIO work, and now private equity, operating partner type work, helping companies implement strategy and align their IT strategy with their either the investment thesis or their purchase thesis. And I'm also an entrepreneur here in Nashville, Tennessee, doing a healthcare-based startup, serving the community of folks who are struggling with and dealing with dementia.
Yeah. And Jim here, two-time PE CFO, 25 years in finance, and an entrepreneur myself. I do a lot of the same work that Veer kind of outlined for mid-sized companies, private equity based companies primarily. And then I also co-run a 5-unit, soon to be 5-unit location brand with my wife. It's a franchise for dog hygiene and wellness here in the Denver metro. And so I'm actually using a lot of what we're talking about. I'm not just talking about it, I'm like applying it in my business real time. So, which I definitely feel a lot more comfortable about doing that, because if I mess up, I'm messing my stuff up, not somebody else's.
Right. And so hopefully you're going to see and you're going to hear from us both from a pragmatic standpoint of guys who are on the field, we're playing the game, but also we're out here doing work with companies, helping them do bigger long-range strategic planning. So you're going to get both sides of that. And hopefully you walk away with some nuggets of things that you can both apply in your day-to-day, but also take back and talk to your teams about.
Yeah, I did want to ask you, just kind of kick us off, if that's all right. IT for a long time has talked about maturity curves. Mm-hmm. You know, where are you in some process, whatever that is? You know, I think it was, you know, ERP has one. You could pick it. And yeah, now we have an AI maturity curve. Where do most companies sit right now in terms of AI?
Way on like the low end of the maturity curve. And I think if we talk about maturity curve and try to make it something that's objective, you take standards. On the IT side, we have things like ITIL or COBIT. These are industry-wide standards. There's a rubric that you can apply against different factors, like how well, on a scale of 1 to 5, do you do customer support? How do you do security? How do you do project management? How do you handle, how's your data cleanliness? And you take those scores and you add them up, and now you have something that's a little bit more objective about like how mature are you? And that's a structure that we can apply across a whole enterprise, right? We can look at it and say, how mature are we with our processes in operations, in marketing, in finance? And that gives us maybe a better picture of, well, when we say a maturity curve, right, it's really more about how mature are you as a business? Do you have standardized processes? Do you audit those processes? Do you adhere to them? Do you hold yourself accountable to, did you do what you said that you were going to do? So AI maturity, right, could be measured maybe on this idea of like, we've got, hey, somebody's got a Copilot license, or it's baked into our Microsoft stack, all the way up to, are you using some type of chatbot? Do you have processes enough that you can have coaching for your call center being driven by AI tools? Are you doing clinical in the hospitals decision support, right? Are you feeding information into a system, helping doctors and nurses diagnose based on patient symptoms and telemetry coming off of the patient?
Just to summarize, are you saying that most mid-sized companies actually sit like at level 1?
Because I think mid-sized companies this is not a hate conversation. This is like they are a product of their own success, right? What has grown many of them was not adherence to a lot of standards, it was that they had a moment, they had a sales focus, they grew really big, right? The revenue is high. But often, I think, Jim, you and I both have walked into a lot of organizations. We've talked to a lot of organizations where when you pull the cover back, you're like, oh, this is a little bit of like, you're doing well in spite of yourself. Good for you. I mean, like that's the power of, that's sheer human will holding a lot of things together sometimes.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. It's really well said. I will also say, I think, so we both agree that most of these mid-sized companies are at a level 1. They're just, emails being rewritten by AI, the cliche thing that everybody says now to kind of like turn their nose up to people that don't use AI as an operating system. Leadership, though, I think leadership thinks they're like at a level 3 or a level 4 at a lot of these places.
I think they've asked for a project or two, and then they've been told, yeah, we did it. Or, the fact that maybe somebody gets told that they've got a chat bot and they're like, oh, that's sophisticated. And you're like, well, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not. I mean, it can be, but most of the time it isn't. But yeah, I think there is a little bit, when you say that about like leadership would say that they're higher up on that scale, I might even qualify it to say, I would think if you asked some of the leadership, they would say that their people are further mature because they, that they're ready for and using it when they're really not.
I think you're right. I don't think they understand best practices and how you should really use the technology. As a matter of fact, I forgot to tell you about this. I did start looking at the Claude Code developer certification.
Okay.
Did you see that come out last week?
Yes.
So I started looking at it, and so I took the 40-page, here's what you need to know to take it's a proctored exam. So I think it's a legit, I think it'll be one of the first legit certs. Yeah, exactly. So I dropped the 40-page PDF into Claude, and I said, hey, well, why don't you walk me through this? I didn't do that. I did not do that poorly on the first section, the first section that we chose, which was like, I want to say 30-40% of the test. Those are the type of skills that people don't have right now. And I think the fact that there's a certification shows that people are starting to apply real rigor around this AI skill set. And guarantee most mid-sized companies don't have somebody who's certified in Claude Code.
No, but it is an interesting takeaway from last week, because I think there were a lot of people over the last year doing, a generative AI certification. Microsoft is digging in deep. I just had a gentleman, a buddy I know here in town, who got his AI with SQL Server, which is a brand new cert that Microsoft put out, and he's one of the first ones that's got one of them. And that, I think what it says is that the bigger companies are starting to actually invest in, rather than, LinkedIn training, which is great for general knowledge. But here, you and I talked about how Anthropic seems to have really kind of gotten that first mover advantage into the marketplace with a lot of the corporate use cases, right? I think it's like the last couple of numbers have been 70-80% of companies are using some form of Anthropic's tools.
Yeah, they've overtaken in the enterprise space. They're everywhere. I think ChatGPT at 900 million users, and not daily active users, I don't think, but 900 million users. I think they still have kind of the consumer market. Everybody knows the name, lockdown, but it's the enterprise. The enterprise seems to really be leaning heavy into Claude and Anthropic, I should say. That's probably a better way of saying it, because they have a lot of different products now.
So we've got these certifications, we've got ways to start showing value. And I think what we're kind of working towards is the fact that not only do we need to make sure that our people are well trained, but that, we were talking about maturity, that the maturity of our organization is there so that we can take advantage of AI to improve something.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it needs to add value, but I think the first step, my personal take is the first step is everybody's got to get past AI as a novelty. And I think that's where we are in a lot of places right now. I mean, like you mentioned chatbots. So many people are using these chatbots, but they don't. I mean, if you go online and try to use some of these smaller company chatbots, they do nothing. You get one prompt in and then it's like, let me get you a human, So, I mean, if there was a chatbot that could take you end to end, that'd be a little bit different. But I count all those one prompt and done chatbots as, we have something we could show the board that we did. And that's kind of novelty, in my opinion. The user sees something new, that it's almost a marketing play. What I do think is literacy and getting people, I say AI as an operating system all the time, but AI by default. So a long time ago in a land far away, actually not too long ago, there was a guy named Paul Bogue who wrote some pretty good books on transforming your business digitally. And this was way back in kind of the early 2000s, mid 2000s, 2010s, I should say. His phrase was digital by default. And I used to say digital by default over and over and over again. I kind of tried to make it my own. And this was back when I started. There was one pizza company that I worked for. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just Marco's. I worked at Marco's for a long time when they were really growing. It was 750 locations or 250 locations to 950 locations was kind of the ride that I was on while I was there. So really rapid growth, but it was a small company and just barely getting their feet under them in terms of back office. Now, the operations, the food, everything that they did was great, but the back office was still, we were living in a world where we had probably 70% of the people that still like to use paper. I mean, if you remember back to that time, I mean, websites were like, you couldn't do everything online that you can now. So if you go back in time and you look at, hey, we've got this split of people, we used to send every week, we would get pizza boxes taped up inside the pizza box was, from every location, every corporate store that we had, the receipts, and then the nightly reporting signed off by the manager that they ticked in time. No, I'm serious. Yeah. And they FedExed them once a week. And so the receptionist would come in and we'd have like 15, 20 pizza boxes stacked up on top of each other. And then accounting would go through, pop those open, and that's how they got the receipts. And then, of course, you know, we went to scanners and phones and things like that. But we were trying to push everybody from old paper way of doing it.
Yeah. I'm still stuck on the first part of the story. I'm sorry. No, keep going. Keep going.
No, it's fine. It is. It's fun. I mean, it's kind of funny looking back. I mean, it was really smart. I mean, they used what they had. They had to have the receipts, and they wanted to make sure that they had controls in place. So it was a good control for the time. It was a little lagging. Like, you would hope that they would, I mean, because computers have been around for a while by then, but you know, there was an investment in scanning technology and all that was needed. And then you have phones. And so now people can just take pictures. And then we started to do very quickly, we moved electronically.
Okay.
But that's how it was done. And it was a shift, though, because we had people that had already been working at the company for 10, 15 years.
Who were used to it that way.
That's how they did it. They weren't necessarily tech savvy. So the same thing right now is like, we were trying to move everybody to digital by default. Well, now I think you almost have to start moving to, it's like an AI by default. That's my entire point is like, we have to work it into every part of the organization. We have to find all those pizza boxes that we have now, and we have to scan our receipts and send them in.
I mean, okay, it's not. I mean, it caught me a little off guard, but at the same time, like what you're describing, just 14 years ago, I think was the tipping point where the conversation went mobile first. 2012-ish, you know, like there were enough iPhones, you know, that were out there. The BlackBerry had started to like lose, you know, come off of like, you know, that everybody's moving to a slab phone. Yeah, we had these moments, mobile first, digital first. I agree. I think we're having a, you know, are you, you know, if it's not AI first, you know, it's, you know, AI at the front of the pack.
Excel, email, websites, all of that stuff is invisible now. 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't invisible. It was front and center. It was, oh, we need these new skills. We need these certifications for this. That's where we are right now with AI, is we're trying to not make it so visible. It needs to like start to fade into the background and just become a way of work.
Huh.
Well, I didn't think I'd stump you on that. I don't think that and the other thing is about that is I don't think it's the AI flashy project. Like, companies that go after these flashy AI projects are the ones that aren't going to really get the most valuable or value. The ones that are going to get the most value are the ones that do what I just described, in my opinion, which is it starts to become such a way of doing things and people are so proficient at using it. That's when they'll start to see real value, and then they'll be able to do some flashy things. So I think it's like, you know, don't put the cart before the horse. You really got to train your people and get them comfortable with it and make it their daily operating system.
And they need a good example. Like, I mean, I think that's I think you and I, we've spent time the last couple of months working with several clients of ours, educating, right? I mean, the conversations really have been education conversations and not, you know, I think both of us have done a little bit of like, you know, kind of small product demos to people to show them what it could look like so that they could then go, oh, I can do something like that. Like the dots don't connect very easily for folks. When you tell them you can automate something, find one workflow that you do daily, weekly, and decide that that's not something that needs your hands to touch physically every week.
Yeah. This isn't like, this audience that we're talking about, this isn't the YouTube, I've got a whole open claw set up in my basement with a stack of Mac Minis. This is like folks that are pressed for time, and learning this stuff is, it's coming along a little bit slower in some pockets of the market. And that's who we're really trying to talk to here. I would be curious if folks would let us know, probably in the comments, if you're watching this on YouTube, what it is, what was the unlock for you? And I'll ask you that question. Like, what was the unlock? Like, when you saw AI you were all hyped up over Manus for a while.
Because it impressed me with AI, the unlock or the hype up over that was that its ability to not just answer questions, its ability to finish. It is like, and it's still like, I'm working with other tools, maybe more today, but I use it. I used it earlier today. It does a great job being given a goal. And that's something, even in the past week, something that OpenAI and Codex has been taking on. I know Claude has something, right? There's a slash goal skill, and it's kind of written in a way to kind of push the AI to finish, right? I think that's what, when you and I have, when we work together, I think, you used to use the term, wrestle it to the ground.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. I still use that cliche. Yeah. Thank you for making fun of me.
Well, no, I think it's a great example, because
it is, it's just business jargon, and we're trying to stay away from that. And I use it. Dang it.
For some people, though, I don't think they really like you had an intent behind what you said when you said that to people. And I think, you and I have talked about how different people have missed the intent behind it, right? That wasn't I want you to own it. It was I want you to finish it. I want you to, all the way. Like, when you get to the point where you're like, you hit a blocker, I want you to figure out what you have to do to get past that and keep going. I don't want you to just stop and say, I got blocked. And that's kind of where we're at. Like, that is some of the more impressive pieces with some of the AI right now and Manus was one of the first kind of agentic tools where the agent took agency for itself and would see a problem through, would hit blockers, would try to run around them. I need to do this. I don't have this tool. I'll go find the tool. I downloaded the tool. Oh, it didn't work. I'm going to try something different. Like, you could watch its chain of thought, and it was impressive because, it was like a dog with a bone. Like, it just was not going to give up until it got to the end. Right. So most companies are kind of at level 1. Here are some ideas on how we can, one of the big ideas on how we get to a little bit further down the road is just to make sure people are using it, and it becomes possibly a bit more invisible as just technology, as just another part of our life and our way of doing work. But there's also a lot of issues that you can run into, especially as you get new people that are really excited. If you're going to have 1 or 2 people on your team that are super excited about this. And if they are, they can make some mistakes. There can be some pitfalls. As a matter of fact, we had, we've been doing this podcast for a while, and now we're starting to get some comments. People are letting us know, hey, you're not thinking this through. So, I think, frustrating as some of those comments might seem to be, we just kind of take them on the chin and go, actually, not bad. We should address that more. And there are some pitfalls. Absolutely. I think, I've spent my career in some regulated industry space. You have too. And so the rules safety, precautions, risk management, all that's important. Not trying to throw that out and be like, it's the Wild West, which I think you and I have said, one of our maybe, larger frustrations as we talk with friends and folks is people being reductive into things that are, and making everything kind of this binary. It's either good or bad. It's either right or wrong, and so if you look at this problem and say there's only one answer, and it's fear, and to combat the fear, you need lots of risk reduction, and for risk reduction, you need lots of rules, and you need a lot of guardrails and policies. And I think we were talking about this the other day. I made the joke that it's RoboCop 2. Where they gave him all the rules, and he had like 4,000 rules to follow, and he couldn't enforce the law. But okay. I mean, if you see the joke all the way through to that end, I mean, you're like, well, even sci-fi says that doesn't work.
Yeah. I mean, anything taken to the extreme.
So the middle, the uncomfortable middle, right, is what I think we are asking folks to try to embrace a little bit more deeply. Is those people, those of you that listen to us and that are senior operators, you have a lifetime's worth of gut experience. You've seen where you can make some measured risks, and you need to embrace those and kind of find the middle ground here, because the opportunity, if you will empower people with these tools, is really extraordinary.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think I still struggle with where the middle ground is, though, too, because there's a lot of partnering with, because everybody who's curious can do what they want to do. There's a lot of partnering. I think partnering becomes even more important right now. And part of that means, well, did I talk to finance? Does this actually drive the business forward, or is it just cool? I mean, should I spend the next 48 hours of my life or of the business's time working on this? And then if I do, did I talk to IT? Did I talk to marketing? If it's customer facing, did I talk to marketing? But assume it's not customer facing. Did I talk to IT? Is this, I can build it now, but is it exposed? Because nobody in accounting or marketing is building SOC 2 compliant Claude code projects. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But, the balance there is your Excel spreadsheet isn't either.
Well, that's true.
And so I think the thing here is that the balance is starting to do the right level of comparison, right? I mean, like, because if we take it and put it on the seesaw and make it a yes, no, left, right, up, down kind of a conversation, and even the middle, if we say that there's 3, well, that's still just as bad, right? I mean, the fact is early when we were doing, when generative AI hit the street, and it was a big splash 2 years ago, and it was January of 24, and everybody was talking about ChatGPT. It just became a thing, and every company was like, well, what do I do about it? And there wasn't even like a lot of information on the street about, what to do about it. What should you have a policy? And everybody started saying I needed a policy. I was at one company where I helped write the first policy, which was a reactive policy that they needed. But the point of the policy was, we already have a policy. We have a policy. It was, right? Because the analogy was, we have an email policy. We have a data sharing policy, right? We told our sales and our, accounting folks, and we told our development folks, what you would not share in an email to an external party, you don't put into ChatGPT at the time, right? I mean, it was just a really simple, like, it is the same. You're not going to send it you're not going to send a corporate financial sheet using your personal Gmail. You're not going to put it in this system. You're not going to walk up to somebody on the street and hand them, a financial document. So, but my point there is that we're just trying to make some common sense out of it.
Right. I get the common sense. It's like trying to find the middle ground, I'm struggling for, a real concrete example outside of the Excel example you made, because Fortune 500 companies rely on macro heavy or just laden with formulas that half the analysts that take them over don't understand. And they are completely reliant on telling investors on a call. Like, this isn't like you have a board, you're a $30-40 million business that's trying to grow, you've got a little private equity money and that type of relationship. This is institutional. We're going to put this on a website. Reddit is going to light up with a bunch of stonk traders like hanging on every word, right? Like, that's an Excel models with macros built by humans, probably has an error in it, are running these companies. Now, I know that, in FP&A systems, this is not an unpopular opinion, so there's nothing controversial about this really here. FP&A systems never took off because they're not flexible enough. They're not like Excel, which is basically just a programming interface.
Yeah. Which, again, the idea being that's not necessarily letter of the law compliant.
It's not.
And so, I think a lot of folks have we've turned a blind eye. We live in a gray world, and sometimes it's hard to pick and choose which parts we want to acknowledge are gray, because maybe more of it than most people are willing to admit are really, really gray. And we're not, again, right, this is not a story to say, forget, like anarchy and just, the rules don't matter. It's using some common sense and some acknowledgement of the realities of the things that we have already accepted as okay, right? We've already accepted that spreadsheets are okay.
Yeah, we had to, because the work sped up so much. Like, you couldn't write that quickly.
Yeah. You mentioned how, we've had people reply in and say things like, if you're just doing it, you're not, you don't know what it's what the AI is creating. You don't know the security. We do a little bit, but also, the argument that I think that a lot of people are pushing forward is, therefore, let the professionals do their job and trust in professionals doing their work. And I saw the best response to this the other day was somebody had mentioned, I have never had an account or something hacked because of my poor password choices and my poor, programming choices at home. But I get a letter from Citibank or Chase or Bank of America. And so, let's just take this with a grain of salt that if you follow all the rules and you work for great big corporate Fortune 50, that's not a guarantee of success and safety. And in fact, that 10 million row, that got leaked out of Bank of America or one of the other banks, just name them, right? They've all had it happen, is probably a worse problem than you may have tomorrow with the 5-store franchise.